So everyone should have that open. So the goal of today is to actually create the drawing. So the whole point is, as of this point, you know enough features in SolidWorks that you can actually create a part. So this is a very simple part that I gave you, but we're going to take it from this part to actually create the engineering drawing that we can later on take to a machine shop for manufacturing. So remember, we're going to start piling this up. So not everything that you learn today is going to be, hey, this is the full engineering drawing. Today we're going to start with orthographic projection. So the stuff that we learned in class during the lecture piece when we did the hardware, the hand drawings, now we're going to try to apply them using SolidWorks. Okay? So everyone should have this part open. Now all we have to do is we're going to hover over SolidWorks. We're going to go to File. Okay? And we're going to go down to Make Drawing from Part. Okay, so this one is going to open up. Sometimes if you are using the installed version on your computers, you will not see these availabilities here. Okay, so it will only load up the ISO options. What you have to do at that point is you're going to have to click Browse, and that will open up the list of all the sheets that you can actually use. Okay, so I'm going to show you also later on how we can actually create our own sheet. So from here, considering that we already have these loaded, we're always going to choose A ANSI landscape. It's the only one that you can actually print out on 8.5 by 11. Okay, so we're going to try to stick to that sizing. So click on it and then hit OK. Okay, so we're going to deal with different ways of actually getting our orthographic views in there. Okay, so we're going to have some simple ways. We're going to have slightly more steps for other ways. But I'm just going to give you options, and it's up to you to decide which method that you want to use. Okay, so if you open this up, you'll see that I already see some of the views on the side here. If you don't see them, you can click on the third icon from the bottom. It's called the View Palette, and that will allow you to see all these different views. So what was the main plane? What was the main view that we talked about last time? Was it top, front, or right? Oh, right. Front. Okay. So here's the deal. We're going to grab the front. We're going to grab the front and we're going to drag it over to the location of the front. Okay? So hold on, don't do anything. And then we're going to move our mouse up. Okay? And then we're going to move it to the right. And then hit Escape. My first question to you is, does this look okay? No. What's the problem here? Exactly, right? So do you see how this is really not the top? Okay, let's go back to our part for a second. If we look at our part and we hit spacebar top, this top does not match the top that I actually get from my drawing. So remember we talked about two types of projections, first angle projection and third angle projection. So in a part drawing, when we create a part, the first step that we have to do is we have to verify our units, right? We have to make sure that our units are exactly what we want them to be. When we do a drawing, we have to make sure that projection and units are exactly what we want them to be. Okay? So here's what I want you to do now. I want you to close it, and we're going to run through it one more time. So go ahead and close it, and we're going to run through it one more time. Now you can fix it, but I want you to kind of learn the steps just like we did for the parts. So step one, we're going to go to File, Make Drawing from Part. Then we're going to select A ANSI Landscape. So hit OK. Before you bring in any of those views, you're going to have to right-click on Sheet Format. See where it says Sheet Format? From the design tree on the side. And we're going to click on Properties. Okay? So what kind of projection are we going to use here in the US? Third angle. So we're going to go ahead and on the radio button that says Type of Projection, we're going to click on Third Angle Projection. Okay, so you have to do this before you start. And then we're going to click OK. Now we have to make sure that our units are exactly what we want them. I can tell you that the part that I designed was actually done in millimeters. So it was done in mmgs. So the same way that we modify our units for the parts, we can actually do it for a drawing. So we're going to hover over Options, click on Options. We're going to go to Document Properties. Make sure we're in ANSI. And under Units, we're going to switch it over to MMGS. Now, of course, in today's lecture, we're not going to be talking about dimensioning because I haven't discussed all these rules, but we will be talking about that next time. So we will be kind of piling this up as we go through each lecture. Okay, so definitely we're going to save this for next lecture. So go ahead and click OK. All right, so now if I zoom in here to see what kind of sheet is this, I can see that I have boxes where I can type my name. I have some notes here and some comments. I also have here, it says dimensions are in inches. Although I changed it to millimeters, it still says inches, so we have to, modify this, and we'll talk about this in a second. Okay? So first, let's start with the projections. So this is method 1. Using the view palette. Okay, so using the view palette, we're going to grab the front. We're going to drag it over. Okay? We're going to move up. We're going to move to the right. And we're going to move at 45 degrees. So move up, click, move to the right, click, move at 45 degrees, click. Okay, and when you're done, go ahead and click check mark. And there you go. You have the top, front, and right. Okay, is that clear? Now remember, this is the top, front, right, only for visible lines. Remember, we have the 3 steps that we have to follow. Visible lines, hidden lines, and then center lines and center marks. The same thing that we did with the hand drawings in the last class. Any questions on this? Yes?
Not a random question, but why do they already go ahead and put these center marks?
Some of them, it will detect circles and cylinders. It will put them right away. Sometimes it will detect them wrong, so you have to delete them. Sometimes it will actually pick it up. So it's just helping you out. Okay, any other questions? Okay, good. So this is the first method. So we just finished step 1. Now I want you to notice something. You remember how we said the top is aligned with the front and the right is aligned with the front? Try to grab the front and move it left and right. You can't. You can only move it up and down because it's actually aligned with the front. The same thing with the right. Notice I cannot move it up and down. I can only move it left and right because it's aligned with the front. Now some of you might be wondering, well, hey, in the lecture when we did the hand drawing, the spacing between the front and the top and the front and the right was important. Okay? It's actually not that big of a deal. So notice that I can actually grab my isometric and I can put it on the corner and break that 45 degree because sometimes I need this space to put more detailed views that we're going to talk about in lecture 4. Make sense? Any questions on this? All right, so this is visible lines. Now how do we do the hidden lines? Considering the top and the right are projected views from the front, then if we change the front if we put the hidden lines on the front, then the top and the right are also going to follow. So here's how we do it. We're going to hover over the front until we see the orange box. We're going to click on it so it's highlighted. And in the properties window over here, under where it says display style, you see where it says display style? We're going to click on the second box that says hidden lines visible. So do you see how it adds the hidden lines? Does that make sense? Okay. Now notice that display style is not the only thing you can modify. You can also modify the scale, and you can modify basically what view is it. But for now, we're just going to be good with this. Okay? Any questions? All right, go ahead and click check mark. So notice that we're done with hidden lines. So visible lines, check. Hidden lines, check. One of the main things that you have to remember is an isometric view, we cannot show it this way. Okay, so for an isometric view, it's preferable to show it in either solid or just the outline, so we don't actually see the hidden lines. So the way we do it is the same way that we did for the front. We're going to click on it. Then we're going to come to display style. And we're going to click on the 4th one, which says shaded with edges. Okay? Are we there? No? All right. Um, all right, so let's keep going. All right, so we have hidden lines done. We have the isometric view done. Now we have to add center lines and center marks. Now I'm going to remove, so by default it kind of detected the center mark for you, but I'm just going to show you how to add it. So I'm going to click on it and hit delete so I can show you how to add it, but sometimes it does detect them automatically. So the way we add center lines is the following. Under annotations, do you see the annotations tab on the top? Okay, there are two options, center line and center mark toward the end here. Okay? So there are two ways to add a center line. If I click on center line, here's the first one. Sometimes it automatically detects where the cylinder is. So if by just clicking on that orange boundary, it will add a center line. It will detect where that cylinder is and it will add it. Sometimes it will not detect where that cylinder is, so I have to do it manually by simply selecting the outside boundaries of that cylinder. Makes sense? So these are the two ways. Sometimes I can click on the orange boundary, sometimes I have to click on the boundaries of the cylinder. Is that clear? Okay, so when we're done, we're going to go ahead and click check mark. Now for the center mark, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to click on center mark. And then we're going to click on the big circle circumference. Okay, so we're going to click on the circumference of the big circle over here, and that will add a center mark in the center. Is that clear? Any questions? Yeah.
Do you have to delete this center mark on the top
Yes.
to get it to work?
Mm-hmm.
How do you delete it? Highlight it?
Hit escape, click on it, and hit delete from the keyboard. Hit delete on the keyboard. Okay? All right, let's keep rolling. So now we have top, front, right. We have the visible, hidden, and center. So we're good. This is a good sheet. This is basically what you're turning in next time. Okay, so for every part that I'm going to assign, you're going to have to do, you have to design the part in SolidWorks. You have to bring it in, do the top, front, right, put the visible, hidden, and center, and put the isometric on the side. Okay? Now I'm going to show you how do you actually modify the stuff here on the bottom. Because you need to put your name, you need to put your date, and you need to modify those notes here, because notice that we changed to millimeters, but this still says it's in inches. So how do we do that? We're going to right-click in an empty space, and then we're going to click on Edit Sheet Format. Okay? So what you just did is you accessed the back layer of the drawing. So notice that your stuff kind of goes away because you're accessing the back layer. So now it's actually very simple. All I have to do is, you'll notice here that some of the stuff here is actually linked. So later on we'll learn how to program and how to design our own sheet. But some of this stuff is already linked to the file name. So if I hover over it, I can see that it says SolidWorks file name. That means if you change the file name, this will automatically get updated. So you don't want to mess with this. But for example, for the name here, if I hover over, I'm going to see this orange box. I'm going to double click on it, and I can actually type my name. Now one of the things that you'll notice is my name is too big to fit in this box. So it's actually very easy to modify the sizes by simply moving those blue lines. Because they're blue, that means they're not fully defined. So I can move this. I can put a date. And I can modify any of these units. So let's say instead of inches, this is going to be millimeters. Okay, does this make sense? So for each part that you turn in, you need to have your name and date on it and the correct unit system. Later on, as we start adding more and more materials, more and more content, we're going to fill up the materials, the finish, we start filling up the assembly boxes, and so on. Any questions? Now notice there's like some notes here. This doesn't really, make sense for what you guys are doing. So I can click on it, I can hit delete, I can remove some of those lines. Just by clicking on them and deleting, I can completely redesign the way the sheet is actually planned out. Does this make sense?
Yep.
Okay, now how annoying is it that you have to do this every single time? Okay, now imagine you have to type in your name every time, you have to change the design every time. What happens if you want to put a logo for your company? Okay, that's going to take you a long time to do every single time. So in a couple of minutes, I'm actually going to show you how you can design your own sheet. You save that as a format, so when you open the sheet from now on, you open that format. So it will already have your name, it will already have all the notes that you need, and it will have the design that you're really going to move forward with. Okay? So for now, we're just going to hit on the purple arrow on the top, and there we go. So you'll see that everything that I just did in the back layer actually saved, and I have my top, front, right. Make sense? Yes?
Do you have a quick question for the name portion itself when you put your name in and do the adjustment? How do you get it to center itself?
You have to grab it and move it. So if I'm just gonna move it around. There's really no way to. Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so let's keep rolling. So this was method 1 of doing it. So I showed you how to do this using the view palette. The problem with the view palette is if I go back, you'll see since I already used the front view, it kind of goes away. So what happens if I want 2 front views? Because I want to put 2 dimensions on them, or I want to add more details, or the front view doesn't give me everything that I need. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and delete all this stuff. And I'm going to start to show you the second method. Okay, so there are 3 methods we're going to go over. Does everyone have those deleted? Okay. Now we're going to go to the second method, which is basically using model view. See where it says model view? Okay. Model view under view layout. We're going to click on model view. And then since your part is open in the background, it automatically selects it here. But if it's not open in the background, then you have to hit browse and you have to find it, basically just like you find any file. But we're going to click next. And here's the deal. Now, do you remember this? Remember the glass box that we talked about? Doesn't this look like the glass box that we talked about before? Okay. So remember, the front is the main one, so I'm going to click on front. Okay. Now remember, I can make the front directly hidden. So I can come here to display style, and I can automatically select the second option to make it hidden lines visible. Okay, so front, which is the center one, and hidden lines visible under display style, which is the second one. I'm going to come here. I can see a black border showing me where my front is. I'm going to click. So I get my front, I move it up, I click, I move it to the right, I click, and I move it as an ISO 45, and I click, and then I hit escape. Okay, so that's the second way of doing it. Okay, now please go ahead and change the isometric back to solid. You should know how to do that by now by simply going back to display style. Any questions on this? So this is the second way. Now, of course, you have to kind of move forward and do the center lines and center marks just like before, but you get the idea. You have to right-click on sheet format, properties, and make sure it's third angle projection. Okay, does everyone have this? So this is the second method. Now, some of you might be saying, what is the advantage of this compared to the other? One is I can repeat this many times. For example, I can say model view, next, and let's say I want to bring in maybe the left view or the back view, right? I can do that. I can just click on left and I can bring it in. Okay, so I can bring in those views separately. Now, the real cool part of it, here's what I can do. I can go back to my part, and let's say for some weird reason, this view, or I don't know, I'm just going to pick something really weird, like this view is very important to you. I don't know why, but it is. Okay? So here's how you can actually save that view in your part. If you hit spacebar, and then we're going to go to the binoculars with a star on it, we can click on that, and it basically tells me name that view. So let's say I'm going to call this zoomed in. Okay? I'm going to hit OK now. So now, no matter what view I'm in, either if I'm an isometric or whatever view I'm in, I can always go back to zoomed in. That's a particular focus view that I can always go back to. The cool piece about that is sometimes if we have slanted surfaces, right, that if I'm looking at them from the top, they're not really normal to that plane, right? If from the top, they're probably slanted. I can actually add a view normal to that slant, so I can dimension it nicely. So for example, now when I go back to my drawing, I can say model view, next, and look at that. Do you see how zoomed in is an option now under more views? So I added that view. Now zoomed in is an option. So I can bring in zoomed in here. Okay? This is probably not the best part to use for that example, but you get the idea. Right? So you can create your own views, you can create your own orientations, and bring those in. Any questions on that?
When you create a new orientation, does it stay only for that particular part?
Yes. It's only part, so yeah, because otherwise if you open other parts that will be, it's just kind of a zoomed in magnified view just for that part. So that's a good question. The question was, if you create a new view, does that only stick to the part? Yes. So if I open up a different part, then that view called zoomed in is not going to be there. But I can actually save it part of this bracket. Okay? Is that clear? Any questions? Okay. So this was method 2. So now go ahead and delete all of them, and let me show you method 3. So method 1 was using the view palette. Method 2 was using the model view. Method 3 is kind of the fastest. Do you see where it says standard 3 view? If I click on it, and then the part is basically highlighted, which is exactly what I need, and then I hit check mark, done. Okay? Now, what's so negative about this process? Like, what's the difference between this one and the other ones? Doesn't have isometric, so we have to add isometric manually. And the way we do that is we're going to click on the front. We're going to go to projected view. See what it says projected view on the top? And we're going to move it at 45 degrees. So we're going to put our mouse at 45 degrees, fix it, and then of course we have to go to the same process. You know, we have to make the front hidden, we have to make the isometric solid, we have to add the center lines and center marks. So we have to go through the whole process again, but you get the idea. Is that clear? Any questions? Okay, so that's orthographics. It's pretty straightforward. There's nothing fancy here. You create the part, you bring it in, you create the top, front, right, and isometric. As we get to dimensions and more detailed parts, you're going to see that we require more dimensions. More views. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close this. And I'm going to show you how do you create your own drawing. So how do you create your own drawing sheet that you can use over and over without having the need to customize each one of them. Okay? So we're going to go to File, and we're going to click on New. So File, New. And the third option on here is called Drawings. So go ahead and click on Drawings and hit OK. Now, if I click on A ANSI landscape to select that because that's the size that I need, I'm going to hit OK. There we go. Now, the most important thing that we have to understand here is we don't need to bring in any part. You cannot bring in any part because you're just saving the template. So we're going to click on X for that one, and we're just going to be left with the sheet. So over here, we're going to make sure that we're in third angle projection. So we're going to go to Properties. So right click on Sheet, make sure we're in third angle, and hit OK. Does that make sense? All right, so now you just modify the sheet just like we did a second ago. Right click on it, edit sheet format, and you're in. Here's what I was telling you. Do you see all this kind of like code here? It kind of looks like code, right? So don't touch that. Don't mess with it. Don't touch that. Now you can come over here. You can move the lines. You can, I don't know, like put your own notes. You can bring in a logo. You can even, look at this. You can even draw more tables because it's basically just made of lines. So I can draw my own tables over here and say, hey, I want more tables for some reason because, you know, maybe extend this line out. You can design your own table, right? You can design your own sheet. So you can do whatever you want. I'm not going to spend time to actually do it. I'm just giving you the idea that you can. And my highest recommendation to you is you actually do one, put your name on it, and basically have that format that you use over and over. Okay? So after that you're done, we're going to hit on the purple arrow. Okay, everything is there. Now, before I move on, some of you might be wondering, well, how can I create this code? Okay, we'll get to it later on, but I just want to, if you want to kind of explore it on your own, when you're in this mode over here, all you have to do is, let's say you want to, I don't know, your name here is linked somehow for something, or it hyperlinks to your website, or whatever it is, right? All you have to do, you just come over here. So you can actually insert a hyperlink. You can link it to a property of that part. So if I click on link to property to part, I can see that I can link it to the author, the comments, the keywords, the date. You know, I can even see more stuff. Okay? So, and I can create my own things. So we're going to get to this later on, but I just want to give you the idea that you can actually do all this stuff. Okay? For now, you don't really need that fancy of a details. So when you're done, you don't actually save this regularly. You have to go to File, Save Sheet Format. Save Sheet Format, not Save As. Okay? So Save Sheet Format, and you can save it wherever you want, on your flash drive, whatever it is, because now, look at this. If I go ahead and save it on you probably won't be able to save it on your desktop because you don't have admin rights. But I can, let's say I'm going to call this Eli Landscape. And I hit save. The cool thing is, when I come over here and I try to create my drawing, now when I hit browse, guess what? Eli Landscape is over here. And I can hit open, I can hit OK, and there we go. I have, you see, remember I did those kind of like funky tables over here? I have this. So my sheet is saved. Okay, is that clear? Any questions? Okay, so this is again very straightforward. If you guys want more tutorials on this, I highly recommend that you go to tutorials and you do getting started lesson 3 drawings. It should take you no longer than 15 minutes if you want more practice on this, but I think it should be pretty good because it's just a couple of clicks and you get it. Now, when you do your hardware homework, a good way to check that you did the hand drawings correctly is you can actually design them in Solidworks and come back and check. Please do not, I saw one of the students do this last semester, do not design for the hand drawings, do not design the part in Solidworks, put a sheet of paper over your screen and try to outline it. Okay? It's not worth it. So try to learn it, because all you really have to do, you go back to your part, you can put it in hidden lines visible, and you can say, hey, top. And you can check if you're doing it right or wrong. So you can see if you're missing something. Okay? All right, so let me stop this.